Ready?
Yes.
All right. Well, everyone, wanted to do a quick recap of the Keys 100, and today I thought I'd do something a little bit different. I invited my wife and crew chief.
Hi.
Do you like crew chief or do you prefer boss? What do you like?
I prefer crew chief.
Crew chief. To join me, and so that you can get both the perspective from myself, the runner, and then also from being part of the crew. So, Keys 100, if you're not familiar with the race, it's a 100-mile race in the Florida Keys. Starts in Key Largo, basically at mile 100, mile marker 100. You run out of a park, take a left, and then you just basically go until you run out of road. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but not really. It's a great race put on by legendary race director Bob Becker. Yeah, which did a great job.
Yes,
but when you look at the course, it looks relatively easy. It's flat. I think I had less than 1,000 feet of elevation gain, and then you're running mostly on bike paths or on the side of the road. But there's two things that actually make this race challenging that leads to a relatively high percentage of DNFs or did not finish, and that's one, the Florida heat. You're running this in the middle of May, so it's hot and humid. And then number two is that you have to provide your own crew. And so logistically speaking, it can be challenging, more challenging than other hundreds that you helped me with. So first, the difference between like a lot of hundreds that I've done in the past, not a lot of hundreds, I've only done two other ones, but the other hundreds that we've done in the
big races, Badwater, you've done
true.
those. That's self-supported,
yeah.
right? Yes.
Yeah, the Salton Sea. But like a lot of trail races, there will be aid stations, and there'll be designated aid stations where your crew can meet you. And a lot of times in that scenario, it's a lot of hurry up and wait for the crew.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning like when we did the Bighorn, you guys sat at Sally's footbridge. I mean, that's like 30 miles up to Jaws and back. And so you probably were sitting there
long
8
enough
hours.
to take naps,
Start
play
a fire.
games, start a fire, put a tent up.
Yeah, and so this race is a lot different in that I have to bring my own crew, and you guys are leapfrogging me every 5 miles. Well, approximately 5 miles.
Well, it wasn't, you didn't have it down to every 5 miles at first, but that's saved for later on how we did our stops.
Yeah. So, first of all, between the two,
yes,
from a crew perspective, strictly crewing. I know you like hitting the beaches of Florida, but strictly crewing, which one do you like best? Do you like the format where you're leapfrogging me and seeing me approximately every hour, or do you like the more of the trail format where you might see me every 2 to 4, even possibly longer?
Longer than that. They both have their pros and cons. I think for me personally, I like knowing that you're going to be coming through like every hour. So I just like knowing that I'm going to see you and know what kind of condition you are in. So I think the leapfrogging, it's a little bit more tedious than the trail ones. But I think the leapfrogging is my favorite.
Yeah.
I prefer doing that, but it's a little bit more work, I think, almost. So
yeah.
I mean, it's a lot more work, actually, but it's worth it. I mean,
yeah. So from
you can see your runner more.
My perspective, you guys are way more involved.
Yes.
Right, you're doing a lot more. We're fixing problems quicker, and I don't know. It just feels like it's more of a team aspect from that versus the trail runs where it's like I see you.
Saying we're like a pit crew. Literally, we are so quick, and so we're done with you before I think you even realize that you sat down. So
yeah. But when you're doing this, where you're self-supporting and you are having to see me approximately every hour, what's the biggest challenge? Because you don't have that opportunity to take a nap, really.
What's the biggest challenge with the biggest challenge is, well, the lack of sleep, I guess, is one of the biggest things towards the end, because you do start getting a little bit, you start dozing off and then realizing, you don't know who's dozing off or what. Communication sometimes towards the end. But I feel like the biggest challenge when you're doing it from a crew standpoint is just making sure that you're ready for you when you do come up, because sometimes you will be at a certain pace and we'll have it all planned out, but then all of a sudden you'll just pop up over a hill out of nowhere. So it's just making sure that we have all your stuff actually ready for you.
Yeah.
Someone's usually ahead of us, like one of us will be ahead a little bit and be like, oh, he's coming, and then we'll be, you know, however many feet away so that we know to be ready that you're coming in. So
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the biggest.
Yeah. So another aspect of this, which is kind of challenging, is that we flew. We live in Nebraska.
Yes.
For those of you that don't know, this race is in Florida, so we had to fly. We did check one bag. We had 2 carry-ons, and then we had one check bag where we put a lot of first aid, trail nutrition,
Your bags of clothes,
a lot of
like
bags of
each
clothes,
specific,
yeah.
like change of.
But we also had to buy stuff when we got
Yes,
down there.
yeah.
So the big thing was the cooler. Went to Walmart, bought $20 cooler, bought a lawn chair, and then also
a shower caddy.
your shower caddy. Yeah, and that was a huge
an
help.
umbrella. An umbrella. That was the other one.
Yeah.
Umbrella, definitely.
Did we use the umbrella?
Yes, we did. We did for the crew. We
Yeah.
did. We didn't use it for you. We didn't have to use it for you, but for the crew we had to because there was no shade or anything, and so sometimes we'd have the car door open and have the umbrella over just to kind of give us some shade because it never got below 86.
Yeah, you did a pretty good job of always finding shade.
And then we
for
would
me.
try to find something, but like it was.
I was actually pretty, and that's what why we bought it was for the shade.
Yeah.
But I could see it also coming in handy if it was raining.
Yeah, if it was
For
raining,
a
I'm sure
runner
it
to
does
get
rain
some.
sometimes there. So
yeah. So heat strategy. The heat is the other thing, as Stephanie mentioned. Never got above or below 86.
it was 86 during the day with a heat index of 102 or something, and then at 4 a.m. it was 86, but felt like 92.
Yeah.
It never got below 86 the whole race. So.
And from a runner's perspective, the reality is the heat is a real thing. You have to have a strategy and you have to deal with it. From my perspective, going into it, I mean, nothing rocket science here, but I had this ice bandana from, I think, Rabbit that I tied around my neck, and you swapped it.
New. This was new.
Yeah.
This was new.
And I bought 2 of
race.
them just to kind of speed up the
Yes,
transitions.
and that did help.
And then just an old good old bandana that you guys would wet, I put on my head under my hat. And then I did wear sleeves. I probably put them on 10
You
miles.
put them on early.
Pretty early.
And then
I mean, I
you
could've
didn't
started
take them
with
off either. I mean,
yeah. I mean,
we
these
just kept them wet the whole time.
recommend this. If I was going to do something different, I might consider like a longer sleeve shirt.
Or the kind with the thumbs. Remember I kept saying cover your
Yeah.
thumbs because that heat is,
Yeah.
was brutal.
But I started right away, meaning at the starting line, I had an ice bandana on.
Yes.
You see people running without shirts on, which is fine if it works for you. But like I knew it was gonna be hot, and I just wanted to start it early. That's something you don't want to like get behind and try to make up later. From a pace standpoint, it was slow and steady. I knew, and I talked with Jake, one of our other crew members. Jake, Meshi, Cody were the other 3 that helped. But I talked with Jake early, and we both knew steady pace in the beginning. So our meetup strategy, basically 3 big stops. So mile 25, 50, 75, and then ahead of time I tried to make it. So I highlighted them. They are designated, but sometimes there's some where it might be 5, it might be 2. I didn't want too many stops. You need them, but it's all a math problem. So if you're spending 10 minutes there, that might be too long depending on how you're feeling. But we did pretty good. I looked at my watch and it was about 57 minutes of rest.
So
time.
before the race, they send out the instructions and the mile markers, places you can park, you can't park. It's very, very specific and very detailed. And so you had those highlighted really well. And then like which ones you wanted to have like full clothing and everything.
Yeah.
But I think after you even started running, we kind of took it upon ourselves and agreed that we were going to stop more than what your stops were.
Yeah.
And this hope that you didn't realize that we were stopping more. Because I think once you get running, you don't even know that you didn't highlight that stop. But once we just came to the conclusion that we needed to see you every hour because the heat was so bad that if we would have just gone off what you put, I think you could have been in some rough shape because even on those ones, you came up a couple times where your ice was almost melted, and your head thing was completely hot or dry, and you were in like, I need something, I need salt, I need my nutrition, I need a different spring. Some things came up unexpectedly, and I'm glad we did those more frequent. We did it in less than a minute. That was your rule too. Like less than a minute for those short ones, less than 5 minutes for your close changes. And I think we even beat that with more stops. So
yeah. Like I said, 57 minutes total stop time. So like if you asked me like, could you do it in 47? I'd be like, yeah, we could take 10 minutes. But like if you said I don't see where we'd make up 20 minutes. And I was always thankful when I saw you because getting the bandanas and just everything just helped. And a lot of times my fastest miles were right after I'd stopped. So you get that little break and then you can kind of pick it up and make up that time.
Yeah, I think that was really important about the more frequent stops. And I just said, I'll take the guff if he notices, because once you realize that heat is a lot harder than what I had thought on everybody. So
so how'd you guys decide what you're gonna do? Did you talk about it? I feel like everybody kind of had a role.
We did. We had a couple hiccups in our route this time, and so I think we just kind of, Jake drove, Cody kind of navigated until they were pacing. I had that little shower caddy thing that was putting stuff in there, and then I did the ice bandanas. Meshy always did the water, so we were always kind of just we just did it. We just fell into those places. But we've crewed you before, so it kind of we just kind of fall into it without even asking. We just start.
Yeah. Well,
no, it's not chaotic at all. I mean, it's pretty calm chaos, I guess you should say, without having direct.
Well, I appreciate it because it's like you come in and we talked ahead of time like, hey, I know A, B, and C needs to be done, but it was like Meshy, water, and then you had ice.
I had the ice on you before
Cody
you even.
Or Jake was grabbing the nutrition, and it just again, if you did that where it wasn't organized, you might add a minute, and you add a minute at 20 stops. That's that can add up. So you guys.
There was a couple of things this time that we did different, like the shower caddy. So I don't know if you want to go into some of the things we.
Well, the shower caddy was great, but is there anything from a crewing perspective you would do different?
I don't think that we really not.
You guys did buy an extra cooler. I didn't.
Yes. Okay. So I forgot about the coolers. So the ice, baby.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. That was where, because there was one moment when we almost ran out of ice, and we got way more ice than we thought we would need. And
then you bought an extra cooler, and I appreciate that, so that you get more.
It took me a minute to realize why we needed two extra coolers, because I was because when I'm crewing, I'm more worried and tuned with you than like, why do we need two coolers? But that's because one is ice for drinking and one is ice for the bandanas, and you can't mix the bandanas. The salty, dirty bandanas, which Jake slapped my hand numerous times for that, because I was mixing them up, not thinking. And I was glad he did, because I don't want you, drinking your own sweat, and sunscreen.
So from a crewing perspective, if there's a new crew and they said, hey, what's the one thing you have to make sure to do on this race, what would it be?
Have enough ice?
Have enough ice?
Yeah. I don't know.
The other thing, and I don't know if this came up, but you are running through the night and you're relying on gas stations to get more ice. And so kind of planning ahead. I don't know, were gas stations open?
Yeah, the gas stations were open.
Like at 2 in the morning?
The gas stations were open.
Yeah.
And then, during this race, obviously, you have to buy something at all the gas stations, which is very good, actually, I think, for the economy. But, the gas stations were open, and they weren't too busy either. I never felt like we were overwhelmed anywhere with people. We always found our own parking spot. It was actually a really well-ran race.
So from a race perspective, my strategy, again, start off slow. My goal was to run a sub 24, and if you've ever done the math on that, basically, if I get it under 14-minute miles, I'll come in under that 24-hour pace. And so in my mind, I was thinking, well, if I did the first 50 miles, 13-minute miles, then I could average 15 minutes on the second half and I could get there, and so I was pretty confident in getting that. So when I started off slow, and the one thing about this race is that you have relays starting at the same time, and then you also have different waves. So they start 10 to 12 people every 5 minutes, and so at the beginning it's very easy to get racing. Because again, there's a relay team that's that's going to change off in 5 miles, and so I had to stay very disciplined. And I thought I did a real good job just early, just being slow, keeping my heart rate under control, and not getting in those race scenarios, because you never want to get bonk in a hot race, because it can be tough to come back. But through the first stop, I was feeling good. Hit that was mile 25 roughly. 25 to 50, I knew that was going to be the hot part of the day. That's where I kind of started doing a run walk combination, really monitoring my heart rate. If it got too high, I'd walk, but was still crushing a pretty good pace. Hit 50, I was a little over 12-minute mile pace there.
Really well,
so I was feeling pretty good. Picked up Cody at mile 50 as a pacer.
Is that the 7 mile bridge?
Yeah, right before the 7 mile bridge. I will say I underestimated the 7 mile bridge a little bit. When I picked him up, it's like we got a little bit of cloud cover, and it was a little bit cooler, and just kind of him joking with me, like I started feeling real good. And I even told Cody, I'm like, no, we're going to get on this bridge, and there's going to be a breeze, and the sun's going to be down, and it's cool. And it was hot. I underestimated it. I thought about taking an extra bladder, and I didn't, and I was about out of water when I got across it. Cody only took one bottle and was out, and he was out about halfway. So it was tough, but after that, I don't know, I just kept chipping away. Picked up Jake at 75, mile 98. Started having some back spasms, so the last 2 miles was tough, but reached my goal, finished in 21 hours and 43 minutes, so which was good enough for first place male, 40 to 43 with that time. So got this in my sweet belt buckle, but I don't know. I mean, I thought from a race perspective it went about as good as possible.
And you got a good, cool medal too with it.
Yeah, I did. So.
I did think about one thing I would probably have done different too, is your foot care. Because I feel like going into mile 75, you had not one blister. So one thing I have a lot of guilt about, and I don't know why, is when you finished that race, you had significant blisters, and I was the one that was taking care of your feet. So I don't know what happened, but I do remember Jake saying that his socks and things were soaked. So maybe, I don't know if there's anything we could have done different about that. I mean, this is an observation type thing.
So we did shoe changes, sock changes at 25, 50, and mile 75. And I had 3 pairs of shoes, and so at mile 75, I ended up having to put on a pair of shoes that I had wore earlier. And I don't know if that was it or what it was.
Yeah, but we did change something up that last,
but they weren't bad. They didn't bother me.
They weren't bad. But that was just one thing. And then obviously, one thing that I feel like was one of our good attributes to this was something that we did different was the shower caddy thing.
Shower caddy was great.
One of the recommendations for this race was to get a shower caddy so you can throw all your stuff in there, just to anticipate if the runner wants something different. And that was the first time I felt like this time it was so much nicer. It wasn't as disheveled this time in our car. I felt like it was all in that shower caddy. You had anything, and plus, even though there were certain notes that you had, like you wanted this spring or you wanted that spring, I would bring extra, and you actually ended up not taking what you wanted. So you kind of didn't even anticipate your own what you wanted. So that was kind of like, or the body glide or anything like that. It just kind of...
Yeah. So from a nutrition standpoint, which I forgot to mention earlier, I was hitting spring energy. I had 2 awesome sauce, and then this long haul, I think this is like a peanut butter flavor. And then I did have honey stingers, but I kept these on me. I was slamming them every 30 to 45 minutes, plus tailwind in my water. And then I'd eat some real food, and a lot of times grab grapes and bananas and
stuff. I think also for some of these races with the crew is we also we keep track. We write down exactly when you take your medication, when you take your Tylenol, when you take your salt tabs. We obviously don't know what you take when you're running, but we will write down 2 springs, or we rode right down that you ate half a sandwich. Meshi's really good about keeping track of how much you were drinking.
Yeah.
I, on the other hand, was worried about other things, and she was really good about making sure that you didn't, that she'd get in the car and be like, he only drank half of this time. And so next time we were like, okay, I think cues are very good. Like, visual cues from you, because you might be saying something like, I'm good, but you only drink that much water, and it's like, well, we got to make sure that you're okay before you take off, because sometimes you just want to keep going.
Yeah.
This is just how a good crew crews together. So that's what a point is. What I was saying is communication and kind of just knowing you.
Yeah. So any questions that you think the crowd wants to know?
What would they want to know? I always want to know what you are thinking about when you are at like your lowest points, and when you're like close to the end, mile 96 or 7 or 99, like that last mile, what is going through your head? Because you're such a quiet person actually, and you don't run with music or anything, you don't run with anything. So what is going through your head?
Yeah. Get to the finish line and kiss you.
Oh, don't say that. Why did you say that? Thank you.
No, that's part of it. Truthfully, I chunk it up. So I'm not thinking about the finish. Okay. And it's like, it's like after 10 miles, like I'm on the simplest task in front of me. Mm-hmm. And that simplest task might be, I took a gel.
Yes.
Get to 45 minutes from now, right?
Yep.
Like, because that's when I'm going to take another one.
Mm-hmm.
It might be get to the next aid station. And later on in the race, and I wish I had some inspirational thing, but it's very like, simple, all right, basic. I need to run for 30 seconds, and I'm going to run to that tree, and then I get a walk. It's very get to the next thing. I will say on this race, and I think it had part to do with the back spasms, but I kind of got, at the end, I was like, okay, you almost got it. And I don't know if that, like, my body was letting down, but it's like very just chunked up, and like you guys would say, 5 miles to the next time you see me. And so in my mind, I'm like, all right, 5 miles, that's going to be about an hour. So 30 minutes from now, I'm going to slam a gel. So get to that. But it's very just focus on what I'm doing, and that's all that's going through my mind. Like Jake and Cody will be talking to me, and I'll respond to them, but like I'm not listening to what they're saying. Yeah. I love their company and hear it, but I'm in my mind it's like get to the next thing.
And I think they probably know that you're not listening. It's just to keep it.
Yeah.
And we're very good about giving you exact distances, especially this race. I noticed we would say it's 3.2 miles. It's just giving you that little bit, because it's the minute we tell you, it's like your eyes light up and you're like 3.2, okay, and you go, and then and it's like that's like you wait. Or one time we didn't say it right away, and you're like, how many miles? And I think that's really important that your crew tells you what you have left. Again, this goes back kind of to why I like having these kind of races, because we get to see you so much, and we can be there and just kind of see you shorter intervals. So, and then I think my other question would probably be that weather took it was not great for all of us. I feel like even the crew, it hit us hard. Do you think you trained properly for the heat? I mean, did you acclimate, as everyone says? Because I don't know how you would acclimate for that.
So that's the thing, going into these hot races is, first of all, I recommend listening to the experts and what they say, but everybody will tell you what they did, and you have to do this or you won't have success. And there is training, and I talked to Jake about this too, was heat acclimation. And in Nebraska, this race being in May, you're not getting like super hot weather, leading up to it. And so I said, should I go do some training in sauna work and, and hot scenarios? And the answer was, it's going to help you, but I didn't, and it's not necessary. Would I do it? Yes. Like I would, if you have the time, you have the resources, you have a sauna in your house, do it. I was watching a video last night, someone trained for Western States and they were doing it. So that would be the one thing I would do differently.
Is actually acclimate. And we kind of laughed. I think we kind of chuckled about it Like
Yeah.
even when we got off there playing, we're like, "Did you acclimate?" And you're like, "I'm acclimating." And then we realized the day of the race, the minute you start running, we're
Yeah.
like, none of us acclimated to this weather because you know.
Yeah, the heat's a thing. Like it's a thing. But I've been in races where it's hot before.
Yeah.
I know, and I have a strategy to deal with it. I'm sure the guy that won it probably did heat training. So it kind of just depends. If you have the time and resources, yeah, do it. If you don't, can you do it without it? Sure. Just depends on how tough you are. So, all right. Any other concluding thoughts?
No, I don't. I mean,
what would you rate the team efforts, scale 1 to 10?
The team effort?
Yeah, overall, both my effort, crew combined.
I feel like we did 10 plus. I really
10+?
do. I mean, I felt this race we had a couple big glitches with our vehicle and some other things, but it just rolled really smooth actually. We've kind of, like I said, we've done this before, and we all have different personalities, and sometimes I can get a little bit emotional. I'm always worried, I'm a nurse, so I'm always worried about you making sure that you're gonna stay alive, and I can get emotional. And Jake is very, strong-headed and keeps me in check because, he's like, we just gotta get our boy through the finish line. So the first time we ever crewed, I don't think that I might have been a little bit crabbier, but this time I mean, those people are like family now. I mean, I just think that sometimes we didn't even have to talk. We just knew our places and just did it. And we don't.
Yeah,
we might get a little snippy with each other, but it just rolls right off our backs because we know what we got to do.
Cody torments you a little.
Cody might torment me a little bit, but that's all right. No. He's like family.
No, I'd give us a 9.5. Always room for improvement. But like we crushed it.
We did crush this one.
We crushed it.
I felt really good with this one.
I wouldn't change anything, but there's always room for improvement.
I think the evolution of our crewing and us from your first long races, this one made me probably the most proud because we really came along. We've come so far, and it's just trial and error. And I think we're pretty in tune with each other, and those guys too. So
so I'd recommend the race. Again,
definitely.
The reasons I like the point-to-point format. There's not a lot of point-to-point hundreds out there, so doing that's cool. Plus, you've run from mile marker 100 to a 0, which is cool.
Which the whole race itself was.
I like
awesome.
the crew format.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's fun. It's it's fun to have that crew format where they're doing it, and just overall it's a fun race.
Yeah,
and so
the whole environment was even afterwards their party. Those people were so. That was a great race. Beautiful scenery on top of it. You can't even. That's one thing. It's so pretty, and and then obviously crews help other crews. Crews help other runners. I mean, we ran into that one runner whose crew missed her right away, and so we helped her. And I feel like just the whole running community. It's just a pretty amazing experience. So
Keys 121 hours,
43 minutes.
43 minutes. 17th place overall.
Yes.
First place 40 to 44.
Yes, babe. Yep, you sure got it. You earned it.
Recommend running it. Great race. Thanks for all the volunteers and everyone involved, and hope you found this video helpful. Peace.